I always go late in my training, and so I'm going to start right now, even though we're not supposed to start for 10 more minutes, because our front part went a little bit short, so that's great. If you're on the WebEx, thank you for being on the WebEx, because it was my idea, and if no one was on the WebEx, I would look like an idiot. So you're brilliant. And if you're here, thank you. You might want to move forward, or you can stay where you are, as long as you can hear me. So my name is Natalie Gordon. I am a school children's trust specialist with the State Board of Education, and I have been advocating for school trust funds and school community councils for 10 or 12 years. I've served on a council. My first council that I served on was 15 years ago. And I love this program. I love the site-based decision-making. I love that it's parent-focused. I love that there's collaboration between educators and administrators. I love the oversight from the local school boards. I just think this is amazing. So this is the Community Council 101 training. If you're at home, you don't have to raise your hand. But all of you in the room, how many of you are parent members on your council? How many of you are educator members? And how many of you are principals? Okay, principals, there's a time in this training where you're going to think I'm a jerk. I'm really sorry. Just be like, oh, she told us it was coming, we forgive her. Okay, so school community councils were set up by the legislature to spend the school trust fund. My clicker's not working. Okay, talk amongst yourselves. Okay, my clicker is working now and I feel smarter, so yay. The purpose of school community councils is to build consistent, effective collaboration and communication among parents, educators, and administrators. It's a forum for parents to be actively involved in what's happening at the school, and especially focusing on meaningful school improvement and on measurable academic improvement at the school. And the main thing that it's for is to make our good Utah schools even better. I'm going to start out with just the very basics of your council. Every member of your council except the principal is elected. So if you are an appointed member of your council because you're the school counselor or you're the PTA president, you still need to be elected. The principal's appointed, school employee members are elected by school employees, and parent and guardian members are elected by parents and guardians in the school. I just changed my PowerPoint the other day, and I can only see part of the letters. So if I skip something, it's just because I can't see the words. Oh.
Like always see principal school employee members.
That's what I'm seeing too, and it's way better than that, and our WebEx friends are seeing the whole thing. I'm gonna take a pause, and again, and you guys were like, wow, this is the best WebEx ever, and I'm gonna change the colors. Hold on. Okay, it totally clashes now and is super ugly, but at least I can see most of the words. And I'm glad we're recording it with the ugly PowerPoint for posterity. So the principal serves and is not elected. The principal is the only elected member. The school employee members are employed at the school and elected by the school employees. Your council is required to have the principal and is also required to have at least one school employee member. Terms for everybody except the principal are 2 years, and they should be staggered. So if you have 2 school employee members, make sure that you're electing one every year instead of 2 every other year, so that you can keep that required stagger. Parent and guardian members have children at the school, and they cannot hold an educator license and work at the school. So if you work at the school in a non-licensed position and your child attends the school, you run as a parent member. If you work at the school in a licensed position and your child attends the school, you run as a school employee member. Yes, question?
So that, I think that's kind of an interesting question because is that, I think that was changed recently by the legislature.
The legislature is the group that has made that rule. And there's an extra part of the rule that's really confusing, so I try not to go into it, but right now I'm going to blow your minds. If you're a parent and you're a licensed employee at another school in the district, you serve as a parent member, but you can't have a majority of your parent members be licensed and working at other schools in the district.
Right.
So that's another confusing part.
One of the reasons it brought a question to me is that at our school we do have an employee who is a member but not licensed. And when we started to talk about a budget member, that person happened to not be there that night. But it made me think that, you know, there should be times when I guess they're not voting, but even to have the discussion, I think that would need something.
There are some districts. So the question that was asked, WebEx friends, is what happens if a school employee, a parent who is also a non-licensed school employee, is voting on a plan that would affect the program they work at the school? 2 things I want to say about that. It's not something that the legislature has decided to address or the state school board. Your local district can have a conflict of interest policy if they would like. It would have to be approved by the board. But the other thing is, whenever we have concerns about this, the legislature's answer is elections take care of that. If you're electing the librarian as a parent member and the librarian is not licensed but works at your school and you don't want to see money go to the library every year, stop electing the librarian as a parent member. And then it's taken care of, right? So if you have concerns about conflicts of interest on your council, definitely talk to your district about it. See if there needs to be a policy. But also just say, and if you feel like that person would better serve as an employee member, they can.
Right.
But just realize elections solve problems if we do them right. And I'm going to talk about elections later, and then that's when you're going to think that I'm a crazy person. Okay, so council membership. It must have the principal and at least one school employee. There are 3 ways, this is my sub-training in the training, there are 3 ways we know that the legislature wants this program to be parent-driven. This is the first way we know that. There is a 2-parent majority on your council. So if you've got your principal and 1 school employee, how many parents do you need? 4. If you've got your principal and 2 school employees, you need 5. If you're a junior high and your school has decided to have your principal, a 7th grade teacher, an 8th grade teacher, and a 9th grade teacher, you need 6 parents. You are required by law to have a 2-parent majority. And that's because the legislature wants this program to be parent-driven. The size of your council is determined by the council. there is a lovely document called the Rules of Order and Procedure that is required. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. We have a template for that on our website. But the Rules of Order and Procedure should state how large your council is. It should state your council size. So I had a call this week from a well-meaning school who just finished fall elections, and they had more parents interested than they've ever had before. And they said, can we change our Rules of Order and Procedure to say that we will have between 4 and 8 parents? No. You have to have a specific size. Remember that your council size has to be 2 more parents than school employees, administrators, and it has to be set in your rules. So, the school that I was serving on the council last year, we had 3 openings and 4 people applied. The principal asked, can we just increase the number of parents? No. You notice an election, you notice the number of seats that are open, and that's what you elect. Yes?
I just want to make this clear. I just want to get this clear. We have 4 employees, 2 teachers, then we have 5 parents?
2 teachers and the principal, right?
Right.
5 parents.
But what if we have more parents?
You can have more than that, you just can't have less, but the size of your council is static, so it has to be set in your rules, and you can't say, well, we're going to elect 6 this time, okay, maybe we'll just elect 4. It has to be in your rules. And another thing that's really important is to keep that stagger. We had a school in, I don't know if it was probably Alpine District. In Alpine District, where it was a junior high, and so you've got a lot of parents coming and going, and they lost their stagger. They ended up electing all the parents one year and nobody the next year. Well, the law states that you need a stagger, and this is why. The district said, we're doing a junior high boundary study, and we're going to rely on our school community councils. So if you're interested, run for school community council. And the parents asked about it at that school, and they didn't need an election that year because their stagger was off. So please, please, please make sure you're keeping your stagger. And we'll talk about that in a minute. First, we're going to talk about your elections, and then we'll talk about what to do if you're losing your stagger. So, elections have to be held, and the principal oversees the elections. The principal oversees the elections for both the employee members and the parent members. They need to be held either in the spring and completed before the last week of the school year. And if that's when you're doing it, you need to notify all incoming parents. So if you're in elementary school and you're holding your elections in the spring, you need to let all the incoming kindergarten parents know how they can be a member of the council and how they can vote. Or at the beginning of the school year in the fall. There have been concerns with councils across the state that have changed this so often and said, well, spring didn't really work very well last time, let's try fall. And parents don't know when it's going to happen. They can't predict it. So you're required to keep your election schedule for 4 years before you can change it. And it needs to be in your Rules of Order and Procedure. It needs to stay in there. We have our elections in the fall. Elections must be held at the school unless your district has set up an electronic election procedure. My kids go to school in Davis District. Davis District has this great thing called My DSD where we can sign in, check our kids' grades, pay on the lunch account, set up an appointment for a student-teacher conference, parent-teacher conference, and also vote. So they set it up so that only people with a parent login can vote, and then they'll say, okay, you can have your election these days, that's when the voting system will be open. That is a secure way set up by the district to make sure it's working. We had a school that was a new school. They were opening in the fall, and in the spring they decided to hold their elections because they were going to be a dual immersion school. And the district wanted a council to weigh in on what language they should teach. So they set up a SurveyMonkey, and they emailed the link to all the parents. apparently you could vote more than once, and apparently you could forward the link to other people. So they had more people vote than they had parents in the school. And they had people voting from Florida and New Jersey, which just means people were like, Grandma, we want it to be French. Vote 10 times before dinner. So please, please, please understand the people who invented this program and write the laws for it, they stand for election every 2 years, or every 4 years if they're in the Senate. They care about this, and they want there to be consistency and integrity in this process. So make sure that you're doing it right. We have a checklist on our website where you can go and see how to do the election. We also answer our phones. So our contact information is on the website as well, and you can give us a call and say, I'm getting ready to plan the election, what am I forgetting? And we can help walk you through it. Okay, when you hold the election, you're required to notice the election at least 10 days before the election. And this is where the size of your council matters. Because in that notice, you're going to say, we have 3 open parent spots. And if you want to participate, this is how you nominate yourself. And this is when the election's going to happen. So that gives all the parents in the school the opportunity to participate and tells them when they have to put their name in and how many spots there are going to be. The election has to be done by a secret ballot overseen by the principal. And this is kind of a touchy one. Results are available on request, which means that the principal will say, congratulations, we've elected 3 new community council members. Kevin, Susan, and Michelle are on the council. Well, maybe Lisa ran too, and she wants to know how she did. She can go in and look and ask the principal, can I see the results? But if Kevin wants to be like, hey, look how awesome I am, he cannot go get those results and publish them. He can't say, I beat Lisa by 40 votes, because that's not nice. And it's also unnecessary, and it also doesn't encourage parental involvement. So the principal's going to announce the results of who wins. The actual numbers and stuff are available on request individually. And there's something else I was going to say, but I don't remember, so it must not have been important. After the elections, this is what happens if your stagger is falling off. So if you're a new school, or if you know that your school's lost its stagger, you can elect some people to 2-year terms and some people to 1-year terms. If you have someone who says, hey, you're holding the elections next week for next year, my daughter's in 6th grade, I'm not going to be coming back next year, don't add 1 more person to the election, because then you end up losing the stagger for that person. So if someone resigns before the end of their term and needs to be replaced, they are appointed to finish that term. And they're appointed, this is reason number 2, we know that the legislature wants this to be parent-driven. Parent members are not appointed by the entire council. Parent members are only appointed by the other parents serving on the council. So if we have our elections, we have a full council except for the mom whose daughter is in 6th grade and won't be doing her last year. All of those parents get together and they can ask questions like, who do we know that's interested in this? Who would do a good job? Are there neighborhoods in our school boundaries that we are not currently getting representation from? Are there groups in our school, either a minority group or an ability group that aren't being represented on our council? And then the parent members approach someone and ask them to serve. This is really funny because the first time I served on a council, I got a call from the principal. Hey, you're super involved. Do you want to be on the council? And I'm like, sure. The next time I got a call from the principal, it was, hey, you're super involved. Do you want to be on the council? And I'm like, you're doing it wrong. And then they're like, it's good because I changed my mind. So just know the principal doesn't appoint the parent members. Every year, the entire council needs to elect their officers. Yes, question, sorry.
If there weren't enough volunteers, parent volunteers for the election, is it true that you don't have enough knowledge?
Yes, so if you say we've got 3 seats open and you only have 2 or 3 people that are nominated, you don't have to have that election. And if you've got 3 seats open and only 2 people were nominated, after the election, the council will get together and fill that spot.
Okay.
Just the parents, remember?
That's how you take care of making sure you have the 2 persons.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the 3rd way that we know the legislature wants this to be parent-driven. So, my subtext. The chair of the council has to be a parent. The chair of the council cannot be a school employee. The principal cannot serve as an officer in the council. The chair of the council has to be a parent. The vice chair of the council, which is also a position you're required to fill, can be either a parent or a school employee, but cannot be the principal. How many of you have a PTA background? I have a PTA background. A couple things about PTA. When you're president-elect, you know you're president next year. Please do not set up your council so that your vice chair knows their chair next year, because then you're not allowing educator members to serve as vice chair. Question? If the vice principal is an elected member of the council by the school employees and then is elected by the council to serve as the vice chair, they may. I know you're probably like, what are we doing wrong? Nothing, you're perfect. Okay. The responsibilities of the council are still not able to be seen, which is too bad because this is a great slide. So take a little breather. I'll be back in 30 seconds. This one's extra good. Okay, this just got better. Hold on, let me put my WebEx microphone back on. Okay, so the council has some responsibilities that are required by law. Those responsibilities include a mandatory data review to identify critical academic needs. For those of you on the WebEx, that's the next class that's going to be taught, is how to access the data and how to review it and how to know what makes a difference. So, mandatory data review. You identify those critical academic needs, and then you prepare or update your school improvement plan. 3 things about the school improvement plan. Not everybody knows where their school improvement plan is, for a couple of reasons. If you're in a charter school, you are not required by law to have a school improvement plan. You can use your school charter instead. If you're in a district school, your district may choose to use the school land trust plan as the school improvement plan. So if the district is using the school land trust plan as the school improvement plan, you're not going to know where your school improvement plan is. Also, principal, plug your ears. This is the reason why you also might not know where your school improvement plan is. Because even though you're required by law to help draft it, sometimes councils never see them. So my first year on a council, the principal came in and she's like, here's the school improvement plan. And I was younger and less wise and less jaded, and I just said, thank you so much, this is great. The next year, she came in and said, here's the school improvement plan, and that year had made a huge difference. And I said, thank you so much for this draft. Now we can review it and make recommendations And aren't you so excited that you are going to have educator and parent buy-in on the school improvement plan? And then she never asked me back, but that's okay. So please make sure if your school has a school improvement plan that you are seeing it and weighing in on it. And that's not just the, yes, principal, tell me.
Okay, so last year we approved our plan, right, with my old council. And none of them came back, but we have a these guys are aware of it. But they didn't necessarily agree into what to do in the spring and not involved.
So they'll look at it this year.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, so they don't necessarily like in their recommendation.
Yeah.
It is approved.
WebExers, let me just sum that up because you can't hear.
Really?
That totally scared me. WebExers, let me just tell you, and I'll restate for all of you in the room as well. Sometimes your district requires your school improvement plan to be submitted in the spring. If that's the case, your council's not going to look at it in their first meeting. They're going to look at it in a meeting towards the end of the year. So don't feel like someone's trying to pull something over on you, because they're not. It's just not due until the spring. So that's a great thing. Thank you, Principal. Okay, so after you have your school improvement plan and you have these, you've looked at your data, you know what you need to do better, and then you have your school improvement plan, you then get a chunk of money from these school lands and funds that you get to use to implement a part of that school improvement plan. Now, I want to tell you something magical. I read 400 school trust land plans a year, and then I read 400 final reports a year. If you're in Jordan District, Granite District, Alpine District, I read your plan. Yay! Andrea's all excited. Woo! Here's the thing. I can tell you if you've had a data discussion based on your plan. If your plan comes in and it's like, we're going to buy 15 new microscopes, 20 iPads, and also a piano for the choir room, and that's going to make our math scores go up. I'm going to know that you didn't look at your math scores and decide what you needed to do to improve them. This money needs to make meaningful school improvement on your most critical academic needs that you have identified through your data dive. If you're not doing that, it's not going to work. So that data dive is so, sorry, what? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start again, and now I'm all confused. I'll probably say it wrong. So you're going to do your data dive. You're going to see where your school needs to improve. You're going to set school goals for your meaningful school improvement. And then you're going to use this money to help you make measurable academic improvement on those school goals based on your data dive. See how that all comes together? I've been on councils where we've done this perfectly. And we sit down and we say we need to raise K-3 reading. What is research-based? What's going to do that? How are we going to measure it? And it's focused. Yes?
So you're actually talking about like choosing what literacy aids are going to help out with lower.
Yeah, I'm talking about decide if you need literacy aids. Decide if what the literacy aids are going to do. Decide what your assessment's going to be. Create an action plan. Make sure that what you're doing is research-based.
So we need to help pick what tests we're going to do?
You are going to listen to the experts and review the data and contact people either in your district or your state or teachers at your school, and you're going to use all that information to help make that decision. It's awesome. Now here's something I forget to say, so I'm going to say it right now so I don't forget. Everything your school community council does is advisory to your local board. So we had a school last year that said, we need to increase our math scores. We're going to buy this math curriculum. And the district said, no, you're not. We just funded new math curriculum, and you're not going to have a different math curriculum than all the other schools in the district, so try again. And they're allowed to say that because they're the ones who are elected and have the fiduciary responsibility and the oversight responsibility for this program. They're not allowed to tell you, you must use this money to implement the new math curriculum by doing this, this, and this. But they are allowed to tell you, nope, that's not going to work. They're the ones that should be the experts on if what you're doing is research-based. If what you're choosing to focus on is data-driven. Your local board should be the experts on that. Okay, so you prepare your school and trust plan. That's due in the spring for the next year. And then next year's council helps implement that and checks to see how it's working so that that spring they can decide what they should do with next year's money. There's also a responsibility in the law for our councils to participate in a digital citizenship discussion. Someone asked me what digital citizenship was, and I don't have a way to say it that doesn't make me sound crass, but okay, I just figured one out. It's internet safety. How does that sound good? I didn't have to say porn. So a digital citizenship plan is you're required to, every year, you will get a report from your district. Your district will say, this is what we're doing for internet safety in your school with filtering and with whatever. Then they'll say, this is what we're doing to help train and teach students, and this is what we're doing to help inform parents. And you look at that and you have a discussion. Is it enough? Is it working? If it's not enough or it's not working, you can write your own plan and say, we need to have a NetSmart assembly, or we need to have better training for the parents. Let's have a parent night. Yes, Elizabeth.
So if you happen to see a student on a Chromebook looking at a YouTube inappropriate cartoon, you can actually report that to the community council and say the filters aren't working.
Yes, parents, please know that if you have concerns about the filters and how they are working in the school, share that with administration and school community council so they can use it as part of their discussion. Yeah, and I have a high schooler, and she's naughty and fabulous, and she has a VPN on her phone so she can use Twitter and watch Netflix. Oh, sixth graders, they're the worst. Just kidding, I love them. So you then have to have this digital citizenship plan where you say, this is what we need to do to improve. This is a suggestion to the district. This is what we need to do to better educate students in our school. This is what we need to do to better educate parents. We have just recorded a 7-minute long training that we're sending to every council that you guys can watch in one of your meetings, or you can watch it at home, that talks more about this digital citizenship component. There's some positive things you can do too, and those positive things are amazing. And if this is something that you're also interested in, Paula teaches a class next hour on digital citizenship. Okay. The digital citizenship class is so much like people talking that we're not including it on the WebEx and we're not recording it for the training on the website, but we did make that 7-minute one that we're sending out.
That's the abbreviated version.
That's the abbreviated version. Okay, other things your council is responsible for. Advise and make recommendations to school and district administrators and the local school board. I have a lot of people who are like, why is my council talking about the dress code? Why is my council talking about the cell phone policy? Because you can talk about anything that affects your school. Climate, environment, academics, sports. Your council can talk about any of that as long as you're not talking about individual student data or employment relations. So you can't sit around and talk about how much you hate, I'm going to make up a pretend class, the teacher of the pretend class. Because if you do that, that's not appropriate in an open public meeting. That's also not your role. If you have concerns about individual students or individual educators at the school, there's a better forum for that. Your school community council is a forum for everything else. Earlier I told a story about a local school board that was asking about dual immersion questions. Another story about a local school board that was asking their councils to weigh in on boundary changes. Local boards if they're doing it right, should recognize that the school community council is where the rubber meets the road. If you want information from all the schools in your area, school community councils are a great way to gather that information. What that also means, parents, is if you're serving on that council, make sure that you're available to talk to other parents in your school community and understand their perspectives so you can share it. Councils are also required to provide notice of elections and meetings and to keep their website updated. There's two websites. The first is my website, schoollandtrust.org. That's where you go, the principals go there twice a year to enter the forms, the local boards go there to review the plans, you can go there to access our training materials, but you are also required by law to have information on your school website about your school community council. So we're going to talk about that. 1 week prior to the meeting, you are required to have an agenda with the date, time, and location posted on your school website. This is another thing, and this is why we love principals so much, because principals have a million things they're responsible for, and this is one of them. They're not going to give access to the school website to a parent usually. And so that agenda should be prepared with the chair, but it's probably going to be someone on the school staff that posts it. Yes? Absolutely you can, and that's a great way to get more parents involved, but you're not required to. Okay, so WebExers, that was a question about whether you can share your council information on your parent organization's website. Yes, but you don't have to. Also, 1 week prior to the meeting, you need to have draft minutes of the prior meeting. We know those aren't approved yet, but you need to make sure that those minutes are on the website with the agenda. That's so if a parent wants to be involved, they can look at the minutes, they can look at the agenda, and they can see what they need to do. There's some specific rules about the minutes and the agenda. If you're going to take action on something, it needs to be noticed as an action item on the agenda. So you can't vote on your school improvement plan or your school and trust plan or your new cell phone policy unless it's on the agenda, noticed as an agenda item. Any vote that is regarding the school land trust program, so an amendment, a plan, a report, you are required to do a roll call vote and record that in the minutes. So you can't just say it was 7-2. You have to say who the 7 are that voted yes and who the 2 are that voted no. Okay, yes?
And that's for what type of?
That's for anything that has to do with the school land trust program. So, or your school community council, your rules of order and procedure, your school improvement plan, your school land trust plan, an amendment to your plan, a roll call vote.
And that needs to be noted in the minutes.
Noted in the minutes.
Who voted?
Who voted and how. Perfect. Now, every year by October 20th, and principals will know that October 20th is a date that they're required to do a whole bunch of posting on the School and Trust website. They're also required, I hope, I can see the principals like, yeah, because you got it done, right? You're a hero. She's a hero and she makes you look fabulous. Okay, so by October 20th on your school website, you're required to have a proposed yearly meeting schedule. It's okay if you change the schedule, but remember, you're posting an agenda a week before, so if you change the schedule, you're going to have to post the agenda with a new time and location and everything on there. You also are required to post your council membership with contact information. And again, that's because you are representing people. They need to be able to get a hold of you. And a summary of your prior year's plan. Always post it on your website. You need a statement welcoming parents and telling them how they can participate in the council. You need a chart showing the amount that you've received each year from the program, and you need those rules of order and procedure. Please, please know we have a template for the rules of order and procedure on our website that you can use to help you write those. We do compliance reviews every year. We're required to visit 10% of the districts and 10% of the charter schools. a quarter maybe have rules of order and procedure on their website. Yes?
This might sound like a dumb question, but is there a handbook you can download so you can show parents?
Some districts provide a handbook as part of their district training. We just provide a super awesome website with a bunch of links you can click on. And also we answer our phones. So call us. If we don't have a document and it seems like something we should be providing, we'll make one. Thank you. All of those items also need to be provided to parents without internet access. We already talked about digital citizenship, so I'm skipping this slide. I can read this. I don't know if you can, but I can, so I'm not changing it. This is how to be an effective and efficient council. Elect your chair. The chair sets the agenda. I don't think the chair sets the agenda in a vacuum. The chair sets the agenda with the principal. The chair probably contacts all the other members and says, hey, we're having a meeting in 2 weeks. Do you have anything you want to add to the agenda? But the chair sets the agenda. The chair conducts the meeting. The chair keeps track of what you're responsible for doing and when. And one way you can do that is with a yearly timeline. And again, we have a draft for that on our website. That will tell you, you know, you're going to want a time to discuss digital citizenship. November is a good time to do that because you don't have anything else pressing right then. When are you going to schedule your data discussion? Maybe January. That kind of thing. It's on that timeline. You can tweak it so that it works for your school. Are you raising your hand or just... but you're doing cool things with your pen, and I like it. I like it. Okay. Also, every year your council should review their rules of order and procedure. If you don't have them, put that on your agenda for next meeting, right? And then also, if you are a chair and you want to be effective, delegate. You don't have to have an elected secretary. That's not required. If you do choose to elect a secretary, that person can be in charge of the minutes. The chair should never take the minutes. If the chair is chairing the meeting, they can't also keep track of what's going on in the way that you need to take good minutes. So you can delegate that among council members. You can say, hey, we're all going to take a turn. Sometimes the principal secretary comes in and helps with that. One quick thing for principals. There's a spot on our School Land Trust website when you're entering your membership where you enter a secretary. That's not your council secretary. That's your school secretary so that we can send reminders to you and to your school secretary so that everything doesn't just fall in all at once. So if you've entered that as your council secretary, give me a call. I'll unlock it. You can fix it. Because that person doesn't count in the membership ratio, and that person also doesn't get the opportunity to report that they've participated on the council in the spring when they sign that paper. Okay, another way to be effective, and we've already talked about this, request a data discussion. What does the data mean? What measurements are we using? How are the students doing? How are we tracking this? We have a council, and I think they're brilliant. They have a goal for DIBEL, for K-3 reading, and they compare beginning of the year, middle of the year, and 3/4 of the way through with the year. And then they have all of the data they're going to use to compare before they write their plan for the next year to see if what they were doing works. So just make sure that it's working. Rebecca tonight is teaching a class, not in here, but she's teaching a class on data cycles and how to review that data to see if it's working. We are also going to record it when she does that class in Orem and have it available on our website. And we're going to record more information about data in November and December and send it all out to the councils in January so they're ready for their data discussions. So please know this is important and we're here to help you however we can. If you want your plans to be effective and you want to be informed before voting, everyone wants that. I have to tell a story really quick so that you don't feel like I know everything. The first year I was on a council, I didn't know what a rubric was and I didn't know what cohort data was. I just sat there and they're like, we're going to use a rubric. And I'm like, that's a good idea. I didn't know what it was. So educators, please be parent friendly. Parents, please don't be afraid to ask questions because this is important. Yes, Elizabeth.
This might be a little off, but is there a site or a translation for like Spanish speaking parents?
I do not know if the USBE's data gateway is in Spanish, but I do know that we translated some of our documents in Spanish, mostly the ones that encourage people to be involved. And if there's more that you need, let us know, and we'll see if we can find someone to help us with that. Okay, so make sure that you're talking to teachers that you trust. Make sure you're talking to other parents. Do needs assessments if you need to. What do the teachers see that we could be doing better? What do the parents want to be done better? What did you see from your data discussion? If you have questions, call your district. Your district has a math specialist and a reading specialist. And you can say, I'm slamming on a program, and if you're using it, I'm sorry and I love you. You can say, hey, we want to increase our reading scores, and we've been using Accelerated Reader. How's that going to work? And your district specialist can say, Accelerated Reader is a great program to help you track how long the kids are reading, but there's not a comprehension or a measurement. So it's really not data-driven. So you may want a different assessment and a different tool to help your kids read better. Call your district specialists. They know those things. And if you're looking for software, there's a couple places you can look. The State Board of Education has an instructional materials software where you can see things that they've recommended, and it's on their website, and it's called RIMS, the Recommended Instructional Materials System. Or you can go to a website called What Works Clearinghouse. That will tell you what's data-driven and research-based. Or you can call your district and say, hey, we're trying to decide between two different math programs. And they'll say, you know what? The elementary school down the street has been using this math program for a few years. You can sign onto our website, look at their plan, and see if their math scores have gone up. So they can help you with those difficult decisions, and definitely utilize the experts on your council, the educators and the administrator. New this year, we've done a couple of changes at the State Board with the rules that oversee this program. Previously, behavioral interventions, leadership development, character ed, and civic ed were all lumped together, and you were not allowed to spend more than $5,000 or 20% of your distribution on that. So if you wanted to do an attendance, sorry, what? If you wanted to do, thank you for not saying that out loud. I heard what you said now, and I'm like, oh, we're not talking about that because people want to spend tons of money on that. That's still not open. Okay, so if you wanted to spend money on an attendance tracker, we would say that's great. That's a behavioral goal. It needs to be under $5,000. The State Board recognized that behavioral interventions go alongside academic interventions to make meaningful academic improvement in a school. So what they did was they said, if you want to include a behavioral intervention as part of your academic goal, you can. It just has to be part of an academic goal. So if you're a high school and you want to improve your graduation rate, that's measurable and that's academic. You can say, we need credit recovery, we need a computer lab, we need some tutors, and we need an attendance tracker to make sure the kids are coming to school, because kids that don't come to school aren't going to graduate. And we will say, that's a fabulous idea. Go for it. Spend as much as you need on that academic goal. Now, if you're doing character ed, civic ed, leadership development, these are some of those vendor programs that we see. You are still limited to how much money you can spend on those. Those aren't behavioral. They're leadership development. You can spend up to $7,000 on that, but it must also be part of your academic goal. So you're going to say, our math scores will go up if we help teach the kids to be leaders and take charge, and if we get some math tutors after school, and if we get these new workbooks. and you can spend $7,000 on the leadership development part of that goal. I am done. The rest of this PowerPoint is great. I'm going to go through these slides really slowly for the people online, but I'm not going to talk about them. Thank you guys so much. Write this down. This is the most important thing you're going to remember tonight. Natalie Gordon, Gordon. I'm at natalie.gordon@schools.utah.gov. I'm on the schoolandtrust.org website. I'm at my desk 40 hours a week, sitting next to my phone, looking at my emails, waiting for you to contact me with questions or concerns. Natalie.Gordon, Gordon, @schools.utah.gov. And quick quiz, where can you find all of my contact information? Schoollandtrust.org. There's two L's in there, the L at the end of school and the L at the beginning of land. Schoollandtrust.org. That's our website. That's where training materials are. That's where our contact information is. Thank you so much for participating. And fabulous WebEx participants, we're just going to wait a few minutes and then Lisa's going to come in and do a presentation on data, so don't go away.